Hey there, this is Ill Factor. Now lately I've been getting a lot of requests to make a video of deconstructing one of my previous projects. That way you get a bird's eye view of some of the creative processes that go into producing a song. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. So the inspiration for this track started with this riff that I started tweaking, composing, using outboard gear. This was done with my Novation Ultra Nova keyboard, and I just set up a patch, I started tinkering around, and came up with this riff. So let me just solo that riff now. So that was the riff I played, and I tracked it right into Ableton Live. And on the track itself, we've got the Slate digital virtual console, and this is being used on every track on this project, just to run it through that analog simulated warmth. It sounds great. And just a little bit of compression, and the reason why I've got compression on here is because, as you can see, even in the waveform, we've got a couple notes that jump out a little bit, so I just wanted a more consistent dynamic performance. So it really just controls that first note. And then I'm using a reverb directly onto this. I'll turn it off so you can see what it sounds like dry. So the direct reverb is just giving a nice, just boosting that tail end of that, and then just EQing a little bit so that there's room for the bass. So after I've got that riff going, I start just incorporating some drums. So I start off with let's just solo the drum bus. So here's the kick and snare pattern. The cool thing about that kick, so this kick that I'm using, let me just highlight the kick alone. The kick's got this sample in there. And I remember exactly where this kick's come from. This is a live kick. I think it was played outside my studio. Tracked it, and I've just had it in my archives, and I loaded the kit first. So I initially started this with a drum rack loaded with sounds, and once I had the drum rack loaded with some sounds, I went ahead and extracted each individual sound. I extracted the chain and I run it through a drum bus. If you want more information about that, I'll point you over to another video where I go in depth about doing that. But I like this kit because it's got this little like almost like some rim knock. I think the stick was loose or something like that, and it's got this really cool texture to it. And so let's just rock the drum beat with the riff. Let's get the drums going and the main riff together. So I mean that's really at the heart of it. And then once I started doing was I started vibing off of that idea and just started incorporating more elements. So I had the bass. This is a bass track here, just mirroring that riff. So let's bring this guy in. And then I have I duplicated that track. This is also coming from the Nova Ultra Nova. So these two patches so far are from the same keyboard, and the duplicated track is the same exact track, just with EQ and then the amp simulator on there with some flange on it, using the Waves meta flange. I have it tucked really low in the mix, so let me just bring it up just a little. And then, as you can see, as we start to dynamically build, I incorporate just this cool loop I found to just add some dynamics into the progression of this song. Now, originally I started the track with that, so when I had the idea, I had the riff going with that loop. But in my thinking, I wanted to strip it down, and when I was in the writing session, when I was writing this with the artist, this just felt a little too distracting. This loop felt a little bit too distracting. It was getting in the way of the vocals, so I wanted to strip it down, kick, snare, just a riff, and let the vocal really do its thing. So let's just play in context that first verse with everything.
Yeah, here we go again. I wake up and you're complaining. I ain't even listening. Got no energy, drained it. Don't know why you do it, do you? Don't know why I give my all. I'm about to tell you, so you know I know you know.
So you see how just adding that one loop gave a new dynamic to the arrangement. It feels like it's just evolving and moving on up. So that takes care of the verses and the pre-chorus vibe. And then as we head over here to the chorus, the riff changes. So we're in that minor tone right here. And then I go ahead and shift to where we incorporate some more of a major change. So this opens it up, and this gives that nice, beautiful chord change that you hear. So. So really nice and pretty there as we go from that change, and then I just start to layer. So let's start with the drums first for the chorus. So we keep that loop that we had in the pre, and then we start incorporating another loop in here. So it's just all this. It's a nice little old Roomba sounding beat, and then I added a big clap here to just make this a lot more dynamic change. This big cave clap. Just shaving off the low, mid, and the lows and the low mid there. And so here are the drums all together. I start incorporating the riff and the bass. So the bass. Now what's weird about this is that I recorded initially the Novation keyboard, and then I used a bass station from Novation. So there's a lot of outboard gear being used here, and I've just kind of been gravitating towards that lately. It's been giving me just a fresh outlook to my production. And then the bass station here I recorded. You can see we had a stereo sound and then went to mono. So what I did was in this track, I used the utility plugin at the very beginning here, and I just made sure to select left. So I just select the left signal so that it's a mono signal all the way through. It's just a weird thing how you can record a mono device into a stereo track with the stereo track in there. So whatever, I just left the utility plugin in there. But here's the bass now in the chorus section. So let me solo that because there is some modulation going into the bass. And I use a compressor to just sidechain what the kick is doing. So it just gives a little bit more movement, and the EQ to just take out a lot of the highs, because there are some highs. So we'll just cover that up. And then we have same bass. Still going through the same distortion and flange. And then we go ahead, I've recorded this is using the external instrument plugin so that I can actually trigger my Juno 106. Here's the pads. And then I have the main riff doubled, but just set to an octave higher. So let's put that with them. And the octave higher, I'm running an overdrive in there to just give some bite so it sticks out in the mix. Putting a little bit more reverb so it just fits itself in the back, but can be heard. It makes a difference because with the riff alone, it kind of just gets buried in there with everything else. So let's listen to everything in context.
Will you say
pads over here for shimmer. I think the pads I'm using are I think these are some pads from Contact 5. This is just the factory pads. I just went in there, found something, and I remember printing it. I'm not sure why, but I did, and I'm just running it through some reverb on the insert. Now the reason why I'm doing some reverbs on inserts as opposed to just using the send was I'm trying to create the actual as if like when you would load up some synth patches that actually have reverb on board the DSP of that patch. That's kind of what I'm trying to recreate here. And so it's already I printed it for into audio and just creating some reverb here, and I decided to just add some space. I wasn't really it's not that much instrumentation here, so I didn't mind, you know, the CPU usage, and then just EQing it. Then I'm using the Waves S1 stereo imaging to make sure that these pads, since they're going to sit farther in the back and they've got this nice little shimmer to it at the high end, I want to just widen that up so it just makes it feel nice and huge and open once we jump into the chorus for the first time. So let's go from the pre into the chorus to get the overall dynamic feel.
I'm about to tell you, so you know, I know you know. With you, it's like the rules are always changing, and it ruins how I see the end. And it's about to be a rude awakening, but at least it won't keep happening.
Okay, so right here we have 2 new elements added into the track. We've got the sitar loop that I've found. So I just went in there, warped it, tweaked it a little bit to get the right groove with the drums. And then we have the vocal chop. So here, this vocal chop in particular, this is taken from I literally just dragged the lead vocal. I grabbed this section here and dragged that into the simpler, into an empty simpler here, and I just pitched it up 7 semitones. So this is what it is in the natural state. Let's just go listen to it. Now, when you're considering to pitch up or pitch down your vocals in slice mode and simpler, or when you're cutting and pasting in the arrangement mode with your vocals as well, consider that the warping algorithm you choose will have an effect in the quality of that vocal performance. So for instance, if we pitch up while it's warped in beats mode, let's go maybe up an octave. That's where you get that chipmunk type of sound. So just by changing from beats to, say, complex, gives a whole nother articulation in the performance. And then Complex Pro also changes as well. So Complex Pro almost tries to change the format so that it's doing its best to maintain the integrity of the vocal sample as best as possible. So just be mindful of that, you know, going even higher up. So right now, I think I went to 7 semitones. So I used the complex just to make it feel like it was some type of sample vocal chop that I've got going on with the sitar. So those are some of the elements that really had this song take shape and take its course. As you can see, once I had the bulk of everything, which was my verse riff and then the shifting over to the chorus riff, I kind of repeat the process, and then we start focusing on the songwriting aspect of it with the artist. And we repeat. We head over to a bridge section here where I do some chord changes for the bridge, and then we go into a double chorus here. there's a lot of silence there. So I remember moving this from the last. So I had this going on here. Now, the vocals that you've heard in this project were recorded by the artist here in the studio directly into this Ableton Live session. So if you're struggling with getting your vocals to sound the way you want them to, well, I've put together a free video series that's going to guide you through the 3 essentials to getting great sounding vocals with the gear you already have. Just simply click the link below in the description box and give me your name and email address, and I'll send you this video series immediately. This is going to help you get the vocals that you want to get just using the gear you already have. So leave a comment below, subscribe so you can stay up to date with upcoming videos, and I'll see you soon.